now recording.
Cool.
Um, but so what about The Crow, um, like resonated with you?
Well, The Crow is really good because of the soundtrack and sort of like the ambiance of it. It's very like dark and dismal, and it has like The Cure in the soundtrack. And the fact that it was adapted from a comic is like something that I really like because like Sin City's adapted from a comic.
Oh,
Like
interesting. It's like is it like that same style, like neo noir kind of thing?
Yeah, basically, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, where it's just like I'm very obsessed with the way that like it depicts like urban life.
Hmm.
I guess because it's so dark and dreary. I also just watched Little Shop of Horrors, and Little Shop of Horrors does the exact same thing.
For the first time?
Which, yeah, for the first
Awesome.
time, yeah,
Wow, amazing.
yeah, it was really
A
good.
good experience. Great.
It was a good experience. Yeah, I really like Steve Martin as the dentist. I have a dentist appointment tomorrow, and I'm fucking freaking, dude.
Steve Martin is. I mean, you can't go wrong with Steve Martin. I
Yeah.
mean, I think my favorite thing of his was definitely Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Just that like classic
Yeah.
holiday Christmas movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's done a lot of good stuff. I think I like him in what did he do? He did it was like cheaper by the dozen, I think. Like he did a cheaper by the dozen remake
Uh
that I
huh.
watched as a kid and I really liked
That
it.
Hillary Duff was in that one too, right?
Yeah, she was.
She's my
Yeah.
yeah, she's my big one of my big celebrity crushes. Her back when I was like into Disney Channel original movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hilary Duff is hot. I always like Lindsay Lohan
Me
or
too. Actually, the two kind of go hand in hand, in my opinion.
they do. Did you watch what is it? It's not fuck. It's like high school, but it's superpower high school.
I know what you mean.
Sky
Oh
High.
no, I never saw
Sky
that.
High.
I never saw that.
Well, there's this really hot like villain guy with long black hair, and everyone like fawned over him for like 10 years, and then I saw on him
Do you
like
remember who the actor was?
no clue. I can look it up though.
Hey, could I quickly ask you? It sounds like you have an Australian accent. Is that
No, I am an idiot. No, I don't. I'm from America, and it's kind of like it's just like a thing that I do.
okay?
Where,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like
that doesn't mean you're an idiot. It just means that like you say no differently. That's
yeah,
all that means.
it's just like annoying. Like I like slip in and out of it because I don't know. I think it's funny. Um, it's cool. Sky High, bad boy actor.
What about your friend here who's on the what are some of your favorite movies?
Ooh, I don't watch movies
You watch
or
films.
TV. It's really
Ah,
embarrassing.
wait, do you what is your kind of thing that you do?
I like to watch a lot of YouTube.
Yes, yes. Are you did you
Um,
participate in the in Mr. Beast finger on the app challenge?
no, I did not. Did you?
I did actually. Yeah, I did. Yeah,
How was that?
I lasted 4 hours, so I mean that's fine.
Oh, that's a
Who
pretty long
won?
time.
I mean the no, I mean like the people who won lasted like 50 hours or something insane like that.
50
Yeah,
hours.
so I was like nowhere even close. A piece of like a drop of water landed on my phone screen, and
Oh,
yeah, and it just fucked everything up. But
damn, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
tragic story, tragic. Yeah. But what are some YouTube things that you watch?
Um, I watch a whole bunch of bullshit. It's nothing
I
to
love
say.
that video.
Nothing. I like listen to a lot of music on there. That's pretty much it.
Like chopped and screwed and shit.
Yeah, a lot of chopped and screwed music.
What is that? What is chop and screw? I never heard of that.
It's like, uh, I want to say it's like death rap from Memphis, Tennessee, that made its way all the way to Houston, Texas, and had a super heavy impact on Southern rap, I guess you could say.
Wow.
And it's really interesting. I've been into that. So
Is it like is it like does it tend to be more of a black genre, like black American genre, or like is it more like
I
white?
mean, I guess like I wouldn't say it essentially has to be, but like the people who relate to like living that sort of lifestyle will appreciate it more than someone who hasn't, I
I
guess.
see.
And
So
they like the thing that they do is like they slow the music down and like chop and screw it. Like they fuck it up essentially,
I gotta
and they
write this down so I don't forget it. Chop, and screw. Is this the technique? Is this the word?
hmm
Chop.
yeah, like DJ Screw. She just got a DJ Screw shirt, which is
hmm
fucking dope.
Wow.
But he's like one of the like guys who makes it or made it. I think he's dead.
I'm like trying to figure out what kind of music I really actually like, and I have no idea how to go about it. Like how do you find how have you guys found the music that you really resonate with?
I
Hmm.
listen to a whole bunch of '50s music, so I really don't know.
Wow. Yeah, how did you discover the chop and screw thing with listening to
Woo!
Sinatra or whatever?
The chopped and screwed music, I really don't know. I mean, we live in Seattle. My older siblings were kind of affiliated with some type of gang or of some sort, and a lot of music they would listen to was chopped and screwed. And I kind of, when I was younger, would be like, "Oh God, this loud ass music, like it's terrible." But then get a little bit older, and I actually wanted to listen to it and like research it, and it was pretty interesting. But they would also listen to '50s music at the same time, so got a little bit
That's
of
like
that.
that's like yeah, that's amazing. Isn't that crazy how yeah, how like people can listen to just completely different music and it still like resonates with them? I think that's just fascinating to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with like where you grow up and who you grow up with, like your socioeconomic background and shit like that.
That's big. Well, that's a great segue. So like could I ask you guys like what is your socioeconomic situation?
We're poor.
We were poor and abused.
Oh,
Very. I mean, now we work jobs.
Now we
and-
work jobs and we're just like a part of like the capitalist
the
like
system. Yep.
machine.
Yep.
The system, yeah, and like we living in Seattle, there were a lot of protests and there are a lot of like progressive thinkers or whatever, but it's like it's all like a show and shit like that. So when we're not like actually trying to change something, it's just back to like the daily grind. And actually, the way that I think about it is that if you have the time to it's a privilege to be able to go out and have your community not be directly affected by like violence of some sort, but it's also a privilege to have the time freedom to go out and do that
That's
if you are
huge.
not affected by those communities. So it's like this place is such like a bubble of like extreme privilege. It's just there's a lot of like class disparity here. And so like just like we grew up together and yeah, I don't know. I think the music that we listen to and like a lot of the things other than like traditional like family systems and like what people really are like traditionally to confide in are what like kept us alive
But it's
and
also
shit
very
like
interesting
that.
because I am Mexican American and Maisie is white,
Yeah.
and we grew up poor together in Seattle.
Yeah.
Mm. So like how do you think as a Mexican American your experience as I'm guessing a poor Mexican American or would you ascribe yourself that label?
It's kind of hard to explain because when my dad came here, he was all about America, and like he was pretty successful up until like 2000, like 3ish, I want to say. Then his father ended up passing away a couple years after that, and like he lost his job. So I like kind of had it good when I was like up until I was 2, and then after that it was all downhill. And then 2008 happened, and like we were super poor. We had to like give up our house and move into this tiny house. It was pretty bad. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah, but I mean, like
no.
that. Like I have the same experience. Like I grew up with my grandparents for a bit, and
yeah.
like I lived in like Hawaii. We were extremely like affluent for a bit, and so being able to like experience the highs and lows of like
People wouldn't understand why you hated white people, even though you were white.
And I couldn't understand it either. But what's interesting with me is that I grew up with like someone who raised me was like a woman of color, like my grandmother, and she works in like inclusion, and she's like the head of like the Asian Pacific Islander like diversity group at her company, and she's a really intelligent person. So I always grew up knowing about like white supremacy and having this sort of like literacy about classism and like shit like this from a very young age. And so like it's not that I could really explain why I hated rich white people, so I was like confused too, but like we really bonded over that, and like we still sort of hold that same sentiment, but we're more educated as to why we feel that way. Yes. And like you can't hate like all white people even though they all uphold white supremacy, because if you're like actively trying to undo that, then I don't know, it's like this like neutral area, I guess. I don't know. I can't speak on that as like a white person, so.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's like, you know, if you were a white person who is aware of the domination of white culture and you are aware of it and you take steps towards being as good of an ally as possible, then that's important to take into account. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about the word ally in the first place, because it's like, I've never thought of myself as, like, an ally. It's more of just, like, being... Obviously, I do not have the same struggles as someone who has, like, experienced, like, racial violence or something like that. But, like, growing up in Seattle with, like, an extreme class disparity, like, a lot of the struggles that, like, my friends experienced, I also experienced. So it was never like, oh, there's this divide. They're going through a struggle and I'm going through a different struggle. It was always like, we're struggling with the same thing. So I'm not an ally. I'm just like like brother in arms, I guess, you know?
Yeah, to be devil's advocate for a second, like, let's say you were to move to, I don't know, like Little Rock, Arkansas or something. And, and you had a friend who's a black woman, and you guys were both separately walking around the street. You know, the chances of her experience being different than your experience walking around there I would argue would be a different experience, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's the same thing whatsoever. Like, I definitely I do have advantages being a white person and like profiting off of white privilege for sure. Like, I'm very aware of that. And like, I did grow up living in the South and like having nothing. I didn't grow up like totally in the South, but like I've lived all over America, and like growing up in the South, like gave me like brought me face to face with like racism. Like, I was in class with some kid who tried to like recruit me into like the KKK, and he like did this symbol with his hands and like burned a cross on my neighbor's like lawn, and so like it's like and I don't want to like talk about it for too long because it's like I don't take too much vocal space, but like I have a hard time trying to identify like my identity outside of like differentiating myself from an ally and someone who just like will do nothing to like will do nothing to like not help. Does that make sense? That doesn't make any sense. I
see. So I see.
Like, having no label on it makes it more powerful than being like, I'm an ally.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely
then
right.
You feel all fucking high and mighty. If like I'm like you and you're like me and we both fucking hate racism, there's no reason for someone to fucking hate you for the color of your skin.
I completely agree with you. I think that that's where the limitations of language come in, because it's like if I want to convey to a person an idea of someone, of like a white person who is aware of their circumstance and is trying to do the best that they can, like, it's very tiring to say that all the time compared to just saying ally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, and I mean that's why I'm saying
I agree with you. I agree that like if to just do the thing instead of talking about being a thing, taking action
Yeah,
means so much more.
taking action is a lot better, and I mean like taking up a lot of this vocal space is like being a white person in general, but like
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but
that takes
like
awareness to say, right?
yeah, I mean, but at the same time, like what am I trying to say? Like I'm still trying to like navigate my identity as like someone who acts as an ally, I
Yeah.
guess. Like the protests are over, and like we have a new administration, and but all this stupid shit is still happening. Like ICE is still open, and like I don't know, like there are a lot of things that still need to change. And as like someone who
Absolutely.
has privilege, I'm not really doing anything about it, and so it's like I don't know. It's a privilege to say that it's hard for me to navigate life with someone with privilege when like other people are trying to navigate things as like the
So
prosecutor.
so now
You
what
know,
now what would you guys both like to go by? Um,
I go by
nicknames or
they them.
oh
I go
oh
by she, her.
she her. Okay, so the person who is she her. Uh, so what are your thoughts about all of this, about like your identity or
I don't know. It's really hard to explain it too, especially just because I was born and raised in Seattle, and I mean before 2008 happened, I would say that it was a little bit more diverse here than they say it is, because I mean I'm flooded with white people here. Like there's nothing else. It's really hard for me to find like any other Mexicans in the city. So like only knowing Seattle and like being here my entire life, and as they claim it's super liberal and stuff, I don't really see it. And like even in school, like from as far as I can remember, it's always been like pretty racist. I've had people like say the meanest shit to me. I've had students like 12 years old say like, "Oh, if I threw a penny off a cliff, like you would go catch it because that's your life savings." I've had staff members come up to me when I was like 13 asking if I was in a gang because of the rosary I was wearing around my neck, which is insane. Like now that I am older and can reflect on those things, I can't even believe it. Like it's super insane to me. Um, I don't really know.
do
I
you
honestly
think
don't know.
do you think that a lot of thing it like I'm older. I may be older than you guys. I'm guessing I am. But like things have changed a lot since like 2013, 2014, right? Have you, at least from my perspective, like have you also found that a lot of things have changed over the last 5 years in terms of the way that people talk about things or conversations that you've had?
Yeah, for sure. Well, like an example is in the workplace. I work at Starbucks.
Oh,
And me and Maisie got our jobs through high school working at Starbucks. But the lady who was like scouting us was intentionally looking for BIPOC people to join Starbucks because it's so white. Like it's white people working there constantly. And like it just being with them is insane. Like the way they talk about things, it's almost like they don't even see me at work because they almost think that like I'm stupid of some sort, and it's crazy. And like I've literally had an older white woman who's probably like, she's a mother, she's I think like young 40s, be like, "Jennifer, this does not go there." And I was like, all right, it wasn't me who did it. It wasn't me. And she was like, "Oh, not just so you know, in general, like things like that." I don't know, a lot of people, yeah, microaggressions have been more common for sure in the last 5 years, a lot more common, stuff
wow.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of
Oh yeah.
performativity, especially in this city. Um, like a lot. What's the word? Promotivity.
I know what you're talking. I don't know.
It's like faking something. Like it's like fake. It's like being fake progressive. Like liberals. Like I like
Mm.
playing into like the whole two-party system in the first place is kind of
Yeah, like I've had people tell me that they did vote for Trump and that they're not going to do it again, and I was like, it was probably better if you just had never mentioned that to me at all.
What
because I just don't.
I guess like something that I've been trying to figure out. I haven't done like a talk like this in a few days on my channel because I ran into two guys from Texas who were just like very.
Gross.
I just disagree. Well, this is the thing. This is the thing is like I also the reason I'm doing this channel is because I really don't want I want to foster like this idea that people can be different. Like I've talked to a lot of people from Texas, a lot of people from
Yeah.
Texas who uh, are actually really sensitive and progressive in some ways, you know, and everyone is different. So like I just want to like throw that out there that there are, you know, there are independent thinkers out there that live in different
Yeah.
states, you know, and
Yeah.
these guys were you know, they discouraged me big time. They played into the stereotype big time, and I was kind of saddened by it. But like for you guys, like, do you think that there's value in kind of reaching beyond our social echo chambers or social bubbles to try to foster more community or more reaching across
Yeah.
the aisle? Like,
Yeah.
and in what way do you guys think that you do that? And I guess I'm asking because I'm trying to figure out ways to do that, and I would like other people to try to figure it out too, so we can try to bring people together more. You know, what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on all this?
I mean, there are lots of different like intersections of like what makes someone a person, like
Yeah,
whether they have like there's a socioeconomic aspect, whether they have a home, whether they grew up with a family, what race they are, like what gender, like
yeah. Sexuality,
obviously
right?
sexuality, like going through the rainbow of all the different things people can be is like really important, but the way that you sort of like I think attack that at the root outside of like a channel or something like that in your day-to-day life is like just I don't want to be stupid and say building those bridges, but like
Ha
literally like the way that
ha!
I'm sorry, but like
No, I love it.
finding the way that you can connect with others is really important. Like I think like I want to be like a chef and stuff and like cook and
That's
like
badass, amazing.
thank you. We have this we have this unfortunate like huge homelessness problem in Seattle and like I knew that the way that I could give back to people who I'm not like usually talking to in my community was by like cooking for them. And so like I made like 20 meals and I passed them out and I essentially like created this relationship with these people that I would have not normally done if I wasn't like spreading my light and like doing the things that like I was meant to be here for. And like that's the like I would say that's my only example other than like not talking like not specifically talking to people of like my own race or gender identity like just you know like spreading your light in the best way you know how. What about you?
I kind of well, I live on a place called Aurora Avenue. That's on Highway 99, and there there is a lot of drug use that happens
Mm.
on this avenue and et cetera, et cetera. So people really have this bad notion. There's like a stigma around it, yada yada yada. All these like Seattle whites are like, you don't want to go to Aurora Avenue. I
They're
live.
hookers
Yeah.
and like they're fucking fucked up. I used to live there. That's how like we became friends.
Yeah, a lot of shootings do happen, but like all these people get this notion that it's like terrible and you can't go there. Like you are gonna get fucking who knows what. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, first of all, I walk to work on Aurora every single day,
And
back
you're
and
a
forth.
pussy if you can't.
Yeah, and like it's just terrible. But like I don't know, like even there's a lot of homelessness on Aurora Avenue too, and like they're like so afraid to talk to these people, and they like stray away from these homeless people, and I'm like, what? I don't. What's the
They're
problem?
humans.
So like I talk to them, and they're super like I've met some cool ass people, and I just like I don't know, like
Mm.
walking to work and I'll like say hi to them, like wave at them, like getting to know my community in that way is pretty like that's one way I do it, even though
Yeah.
people think I'm fucking crazy,
Well,
which
you
I
know
think
what
is
though?
so
That's like
stupid.
really awesome. That's like like you know, I'm just this random guy on Omegle, right? But like that's really scary for people, you know, and like
But it shouldn't be. That's what's so fucked up. Like if you grew up in a community where there weren't a lot of homeless people, then you're gonna be like fear is ignorance. You know, if you were ignorant to the fact that these people aren't gonna fucking hurt you, then that's your own fucking problem. And that's where I feel like it's really hard to build these like communities, is like there being that disconnect of like fear and ignorance. And it's like, are those people even worth educating?
Well, especially in Seattle, which is crazy because you go down one block and you have fucking Bill Gates just like relaxing on his lawn, and then you go down another block and you see a whole bunch of people using, and it's like, okay, and these, I don't know, it's a lot.
Did you guys like I like when the election came around and stuff, were you major advocates for certain candidates? Like
No.
I mean, like, we settle for Biden.
Settle for Biden, but also like playing into a two-party system in the first place is believing in what America is as a whole, which is just like like imperialist, like colonized place that has like committed atrocities and genocides, and like so voting for a candidate like this whole like conservative liberal like argument is I think it's
faux faux binary,
and that's fucking horrible, but I think that it's a very like millennial ideology to be like a liberal, because what actually oppresses people, and is like liberals in the first place. It's like there being a cage without really knowing that there's a cage, I guess, like, you know, like girl boss feminism and shit like that, where it's like there's a mark and you're just not hitting it, you know. So there's a lot of that in Seattle. And like the whole settle for Biden, there were stickers everywhere, and it's like, why don't we like not play into this two-party system?
I have to shout out my favorite organization, Represent Us, which is all about passing the American Anti-Corruption Act, which is aimed at adopting a ranked choice voting system that will then help to open up third parties. Like first we have to like get like the American Anti-Corruption Act passed like statewide and through localities. Like that's how it like we'll be able to drum up support. But I think you are hitting the nail on the head. I think that's that's exactly what I believe too, what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, like, and I'm totally up to, I mean, like, we like going on Omegle and, like, arguing with racists and shit.
I mean, it's just for fun,
It's just for fun, but
they take it way too seriously.
And we get, like trolled all the time.
Yeah, they call me a Mexican all the time, and I'm like,
it's super fucked up.
Mexican.
But that's what it's saying. Yeah.
Alrighty.
But it's,
I'm not gonna call you white.
Yeah, you white.
You cracker. Right, exactly.
But it's really interesting, like, talking to people who don't. The fear is that, like, America will be this horrible place and it'll be so bad. And it's like, well, you just won't be upholding white supremacy anymore. And it may be bad. Or, like, this argument that women hate all men and like all this shit, and it's like you're just afraid of the privilege that you'll lose in order to like balance out the scales, you know.
Of course, people don't want to lose power. You know, no one wants to lose their.
But if they were aware of the power that they were losing, you know, like they're not even aware of it. They're just like, no, like I'm gonna go be a fucking like white supremacist and like be crazy. I don't know. We're getting out of away from the point, but yeah, fucking, I don't know. That's why I want to get into the topic of our generation, because we're obviously different generations, I'd say.
Yeah, I think I'm millennial. You're Gen Z, right?
Yeah, like a message from Gen Z to millennials: we don't give a fuck about anything. We want to overthrow the government. We climate. We think that the climate is going to kill us before we kill ourselves. Like just shit like that. Like that's my message: is that our generation does not care about anything because we think we're all gonna die.
Is that is that like Gen Z's greatest strength and greatest weakness, is that you don't give a fuck about anything?
I think so. Yeah,
I think so too.
Do you? Is it Jennifer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you agree? Do you agree with that? That opinion of Gen Z?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I feel like we honestly kind of like don't give a shit about any of this. We just want to chill because now we're getting like we are understanding like all this shit about the government and how shitty it is, and we just don't give a fuck, and we're kind of realizing that we're just like on Iraq in
Yeah.
space, and we're just like, all right, who gives a
Yeah.
fuck about the government? Like we're running out of time for everything. Like
Yeah, the world's gonna end. Like, stop. Like, it's interesting to look through like what generation has faced what hardship or whatever, and like there's always like, oh, the worst thing you guys have seen is 9/11, and it's like, okay, well, there's COVID and the fact that there's like a climate crisis and all this crazy shit is happening, and whether or not like whether
I
you're
mean,
not
but it's not even that we need to see something. It's like
yeah,
we shouldn't even be seeing.
we shouldn't even be experiencing all of this. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
It can just go on forever. I mean,
we don't
honestly.
we don't give a fuck about anything because we think the world is gonna end, and that's not like I would say that that's everyone. Like no one I know is having babies. Nobody I know is. I mean, everybody's having babies. They should. People we know should not be having babies are having babies. But yeah, our generation doesn't give a fuck about anything because everyone's already fucked it up for us, and all this systematic, all these systems that they set in place are fucked up, so we don't want to play into them in the first place, whether that's like gender roles or like the economy and like stocks and shit like that, like
Yeah.
or jobs in general. Like, we just don't. What is the fucking point? It's just this like nihilistic. I don't know if it's nihilistic or if it's existentialism, but it's like we're facing our end essentially before any generation has ever had. So I don't know.
Yeah, like we say all this, but we also work overtime every single week, and like
Because we have to work
Yeah.
to survive, and it's fucked. It's like that or we kill ourselves. So, like,
Oh, that's so true. You guys are speaking so much truth right now. It's like it's like great. Like this is great. Um,
yeah,
it's also overwhelming. It's overwhelming because I'm such a person that like really like cuz nihilism to me what nihilism means is like fuck it. Like I am just going to watch YouTube all day and not work cuz why the fuck? I'm just going to do what I want and I don't need to work blah blah blah. But
yeah,
but like to me like I to me if there's a problem and we continue to I don't know listen to each other, then we can figure out solutions to our
yeah,
problems. And you know what, like our leaders our leaders are like in bed with special interests, and so we need to kind of go outside the system more. Like we need to figure that out more.
yeah,
And I just don't I rarely hear any inspirational leaders talking about things like that, and it gets me down. And I don't know. Do you are there inspirational people that you guys listen to, or you guys hear that you guys are there inspirational people that you kind of keep tabs on?
I mean, not really. I wouldn't say there's like a voice of our generation or someone that
What about AOC? Are you
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I will never put someone in politics on a pedestal in my brain. Like, you are
that's
playing
probably
into the
good.
system.
Yeah.
You know, like AOC
Yeah,
is fine and
honest.
dandy, but like she is playing into a game that like is it.
Like shout out to her.
Shout out to her for what she's doing, but
Yeah,
it's like
but
even
uh,
with I don't know, she's playing into the system. I think
it's the system that fucks me up. Like I just can't.
yeah,
I can't root for.
Yeah.
It's like 99%, but then the system, that 1%, that I'm like, nah.
yeah, I mean everything
Yeah.
she's doing is great, but because she's playing into the system is like all of your efforts are to like fix a broken system and you're not going to. And so in terms of inspiration, like I try to find inspiration, especially in Seattle, like even though we're like fucked and gentrified and everyone fucking sucks, like I really find inspiration from like the people around me and like the artists and mutual aid groups. Like we have a lot of like farm mutual aid, and just like people giving back to the community in large ways, especially like food wise and like gear, and people who are showing up to like stop like homeless encampment sweeps and stuff. Like those people, I would say, like no names would just be like the most inspirational, but there's not one like death to the leaders and shit like that is basically where I'm at. Like anyone who's being put on a pedestal is suspicious to me. So
Mm.
I think the more local you get and the more you crunch it down to your community, like just just being a fan of people doing good is the best way to go, I guess, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
small scale, you know, like the smaller scale you get, I think it's sort of infectious, and I would rather like go out with like some like fucking the South being on fire and us being fucking frozen over like global warming style, like helping thy neighbor than, you know, just being like fuck it. So there's this form of nihilism, but also like on a smaller scale trying to help the people around us because those are the people that actually matter. Like fuck the government, fuck politics, you know, like you know.
Yeah, is Jessica
Jennifer.
Jennifer? Uh, any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, I agree. It's also interesting because I am a first generation Mexican. And my dad came here like when I was growing up until I was like 7. Like my dad loved everything about America. He was like, "Fuck yeah, love everything. Go presidents. Love you. Shout out to you." Like he worked down in downtown Seattle and like I don't know. I was also raised Catholic, and then like this, my sister stopped going to church, and I stopped going to church, and I just started thinking about a lot of things, especially stuff like my dad really liked in America. I was like, why? Like, what is so special about America that you like? Like, there is nothing. I understand that there is opportunity here, especially if you come from a different country where there's just not, you know, you don't have the access to things, and you come here to seek better opportunity.
Education, exactly. A lot
Yeah,
of
so like I totally felt that way in like high school essays. I would type that shit, but
Oh,
then
okay.
yeah, like I don't know, like I would have rather stayed in Mexico. Like I would have rather had my parents stay in Mexico than to come here to give us a better opportunity, if that makes
Because of like the
sense.
culture and like your language and stuff, like going back to your roots.
Yeah, going back to my roots, especially like I mean, I lost my native tongue. My first language was Spanish, and now it's completely fucking gone. Growing up in Seattle, and I just like anything. I like anything political. I just don't give a fuck about. Like,
But do you think that's because like you were able to see America? Do you think
yeah,
that if you weren't in America and your family stayed there, that you would still want to come here to experience it? Do you think that's a privilege in
I
itself?
think also in our generation, social media is huge, and I feel like I would have seen through social media
How
maybe.
fucked up America
Yeah,
is.
how like shitty it is here. I mean, take away social media, and I'd probably be like, fuck yes, like I need to go to America.
Yeah.
Well, I've talked to a bunch of people from India on here, and a lot of them, like some younger people, really love American YouTubers. Some of the older Indians that I've talked to, like really, like they get paid like at most the equivalent of $1,000 a month, whereas here they would get paid like, like if you're getting
Less.
paid if you're in Seattle getting paid $15 an hour, you'll make that in 2 months. You know what I mean? Or,
Yeah.
or, or you'll make $1,000 every 2 weeks or even more. So like
Yeah.
there are those opportunities, and like the standard of living. Like in India, um, you have to worry about getting hit by a car. Like instead of it's the opposite. Here in America, like everyone needs to look out for the people that are smaller. But when you're in India, if you're walking, you have to worry about cars hitting you, and if you're a car, you need to worry about trucks hitting you. Like
Yeah.
that's what people have told me. And like here the value of human life is higher. Like the law. I mean, it on the whole, if you are a black person walking across the street in New York City, you get hit by a car. That guy driving the car is, something is going to happen to him. You know,
Yeah.
like compared to a person running someone over in India, there aren't as many like laws saying that they're really even at fault, um,
Yeah.
which is crazy. So like when laws dictate, uh, even indirectly, that the human life is really not worth as much in India as it is in America. Like that seeps into your psychology, I would imagine.
Mhm.
And you'd want to be valued more. I think that's
Yeah.
something that I've kind of gleaned from some of my conversations.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm trying. I never experienced living in another country.
You have. I mean, I've only visited
Yeah,
other countries.
but I mean, I think what you're trading in America is like I wouldn't say trading, but there are so many like I would say like fine line sort of like situations where if like if that person who hit someone with the car had insurance, that insurance company is like sort of like insurance companies obviously profit off of people who are like poor, and like
Mm-hmm.
can't pay like like interest and shit like that. Like they're profiting off of poor people in poor communities and shit. Like that you're really trading like this like freedom aspect and like a higher life um price, I guess, for all these like little nooks and crannies and like things that'll still get you even though it's a good place to be, quote unquote. Like I like there is a lot of privilege in saying that, and I'm not proud to be an American, but like it is. I guess it's good that I'm here, and I wouldn't really like have thought of that without having this conversation. I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
I never really thought about like a person crossing the road in India kind of
Yeah.
conversation.
Well, yeah.
not.
Well, yeah, and another just another thing too is like the cleanliness in India from people who I have talked to, and you can go literally onto my YouTube channel, which is kind of
I
I
was on
like that.
it. I was searching when we were talking.
And you can like I've talked to probably 70 people from India, and like several of them have talked about the cleanliness of India. Like people
And like
piss
no
and poop on
public
the street.
bathroom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like, and then what about clean water? So there's just like so many things that we take for granted because we are literally in our fishbowl. We are in our fishbowl,
Yeah.
you know,
But a lot
and
of that was sort of built off of the like colonization of other like countries
absolutely,
and places.
absolutely, yeah. It
Like
came with the genocide of Native Americans. I'm not.
yeah. Well, I mean, in a broader spectrum, like there was like the West India Trading Company, which was like British, and they went over, and they essentially like same way with like the fucking like Danish people or whatever did to Africa. Like they took
Yeah.
all of the good shit and of profit shit, things that would make money out of that land that would have like those people who live there could have profited off of it and left and made this sort of like disparity and like sort of like left the bullshit for the people who lived there to deal with it and be too poor to get out of it. And I think that what I was saying with like the price to be an American is like knowing that every time you wake up and the clean water you have and all the shit that you have, especially as a white person, is built off of someone, especially in a capitalist society, is built off of someone fucking like having to piss on the fucking street and not having a house to live in and being fucking bombed and like there's like our success is built off of the like the fucked up shit that happens in other countries that we control. And so it's great, but at the same time it's like there's like this like icky disgusting feeling.
Jennifer, any thoughts? I don't want to make sure that you're not.
Yeah, no, I'm good. It's like listening to this conversation is pretty interesting and taking it all in, honestly.
No.
We usually see a lot of dicks on here, so
Me too. I'm on. My God, I've been on here almost every day for the last like 8 months. Crazy, something like that.
Wow.
that's wild.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you meet a lot of interesting people. A lot of interesting people. But like
Yeah.
getting back to I just want to like, yeah, I'm really enjoying this conversation. And I think like in terms of the idea of like the icky feeling, I can, I hate to, I'm like one of these people who's like, if I start feeling icky, then I won't be productive. Like I have like this addiction to productivity.
Hmm.
It's like,
Well, that's
oh,
because of capitalism.
well, yeah, yeah. It has to do. I think even more like even more. Yes, I agree. But
Yeah,
I
but
think
what you're
even
doing is good.
even more intimately though is like that's how my family was. And
Yeah,
yeah, it does come from capitalism because a lot of them are like have money controls their life. It's like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, like we have to save money here, we have to save money here, we gotta, oh, we have to work, we have to, I can't stop.
yeah,
And but I I think it's important to acknowledge the ickiness, but I think it's also important to like live in the moment. And there are things that we can control, right? There's that, what is that like, it's that phrase from AA. I don't know if you know it. It's like, God, give me the serenity to know the things that I can change. That I'm butchering it, and I
I
don't
know
really
what
know.
you're talking
You know what
about.
I know?
I know what you're
I
talking
kind
about.
of want to like bring it up, like on here, but I don't know.
It's like, give me the strength to know the things that I can't change and control the things I can, or something like that.
Yeah,
It,
and it's like I it's I think it's really important to be kind to ourselves because there are things that we
oh, I got it. I got it.
perfect.
You want
Yeah,
me to?
yeah. Could you share it?
Yeah, it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Yeah,
I love that.
yeah,
I love that because it's like, you know, strive for awareness. Don't beat yourself up because you can't know everything, and and
yeah,
try and do, and
yeah,
so I think that ickiness is important because it shows awareness and it shows care, but it's
yeah.
also like how I mean, there's so many ways that you can shake, like
Yeah. Well, how far does care really go? Like, you care is not like profitable. You can't physically like give someone starving care and have them like have a full stomach anymore. So like this whole idea of like American sympathy is very,
ah
it's it's weird, but at the same time, like I think with like in terms of what you're doing and like when I like feed people and shit like that, like you're sort of like rewriting the shit and you're still being productive, but in like a self fulfilling and also like community fulfilling way, which I think is like really great because on all ends of the spectrum you are doing good. Like there's no
mm.
that icky feeling doesn't go away. It's sort of like accepting the icky feeling and sort of trying to rewrite it. Not to
Yeah,
like
that's
clear
it.
your conscience, but to like make the now, which will once be history, like a better tomorrow.
Yeah, totally. I love the way. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It seems like,
So
yeah, I appreciate that because it seems like you're not someone who just kind of like bullshits people, you know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
No, yeah,
No.
I don't.
So
But yeah, I mean, on the topic of self awareness, like you could be self aware, but it makes you really embarrassed and like I don't know, makes you
Yeah.
feel icky all the time. Sometimes I wish I wasn't as self aware. I don't know. What do you think, Jennifer?
Think about what?
Self awareness.
Um, I don't know. Self awareness has like what are we talking?
I don't know. Like, do you have self awareness? Like, you're really good at getting things out of people. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I told you earlier, I've had well, it's kind of weird actually. I don't know. I think a lot of people trust me, which is interesting. I feel like hmm, I don't know. I have met so many people in my life, and I think it's insane. I do know a lot of people. I
Yeah.
just like
But do you know yourself?
I don't. I don't. I
That's
really
self
don't.
awareness.
I mean,
I don't know.
this is the crazy thing is like we don't really ever know ourselves. Um, what we know is like the labels that people have given us about
Yeah.
things, right? That like reinforce things. And we also
Yeah.
know we like label things ourselves and create our own stories. We create our own trauma, I think. Like if you hold on to an idea that you think, oh, that was traumatic, and you hold on to it for 20 years, that is you creating your own trauma. You know?
You got into an interesting subject.
Yeah, I don't know. That's I have like okay, so I'm 19,
Okay.
and I feel like just within the past, I want to say like 2 years, I have really come to terms that like I do have trauma. Like I know that now, and I also have realized that like I was forced to go into like therapy and like forced to go into counseling when I was like from 8 to like 12 years old, I think. And I didn't understand why I needed to be there. And I was always so frustrated that I had to be there. And I always said, I am not going to tell a random person all my feelings and like everything that I know. And like they want me to confess them, like, absolutely not. So, I mean, like, I've always had this notion that, like, yeah, I've seen bad shit, but like, I never really understood like
Yeah.
the experiences I was going through up until like the past 2 years,
Hmm.
and it's not something that like, I mean,
Do you
I
think it
don't-
holds you back?
I don't think it holds me back at all. I mean, it's
I
definitely
think
created
trauma
who I
makes
am.
you a stronger person. Like our
sure.
friendship came through like a lot of trauma, both growing up in Aurora, both like I grew up
Yeah.
in Section 8 housing and like being around gang members with Jenny. Like
Yeah, like,
Like-
it's. I mean, it's. We've had this conversation where we went to a middle school where they were. It was just
they were
pure
locking
suburban
kids up.
white kids,
Yeah,
and then there was a. It was very separated. There
yeah. It was literally segregated.
it was crazy, and me and Maisie talk about it like till this day that we were literally 12 years old talking about how we hate the police,
Yeah.
and like we hate everything.
But that's because of the trauma we experienced.
Yeah.
Like I think you are a summation of your experiences, and like I graduated therapy, which is dope as fuck. I think I've worked through a lot of my trauma, and a lot of it was differentiating what I needed to hold on to keep the idea of being a strong person versus like letting go of it. And what I have found is that strength comes from not what you can endure, but what you have endured, and then what you can avoid, sort of.
Oh, what like avoid meaning like letting it go?
Letting it go is really important, but what you find a lot of the times, like especially growing up in like generationally poor families, is that shit is held on to you. Like
Yeah.
black families who have experienced slavery, like you can tell in their genes that they have
Yes.
experienced such great amounts of trauma that affects them like health wise. So like especially as the youngest, like a couple of the youngest people in the family, we think it is our sort of like destiny in a way to stop the snowballing effect of trauma that we pass on to other people by
Right.
letting it go. And basically what I was trying to say is that people who experience trauma will seek out things that cause them trauma to feel like in control and comfortable, especially people who grow up in very chaotic homes. And so it's very, very hard to rewrite that narrative of like not wanting to seek out people who will ruin your life and not seek out people with like negative intentions and not sort of have these negative feelings. And like mental illness is a whole nother thing, but sort of try to better yourself so that you can like better other generations and like the people around you, sort of. So it's like what I mean by saying avoid is like acknowledging what happened, not holding on to it, but sort of like reliving your life in a new way that no one has ever like done before, you know?
Yeah.
And that shit's really hard, and sort of like I wouldn't say it's a trauma within itself, but it's sort of like a rebirth. Like birth is a huge trauma that we endure when we enter this world, and it's sort of like a second rebirth out of two people who have been into a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a second rebirth of sort of like erasing that from your brain and sort of trying to be a healthy person, you know? It's fucked, but it's cool.
Wow. Well, I've actually in the middle of this book that kind of gets at exactly that. It's called My Grandmother's Hands.
Whoa.
Wow, that sounds
Let me
like
let me take a picture of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It gets at exactly that. It gets at, like racialized, like this says, racialized trauma and how it manifests itself in the body, right? And I'm an
This bitch
actor.
got sick from it. Sorry. that
Oh
was
my
a
god,
lot.
yeah. Do you want to hear a fucking terrible story?
Horrible
Yes.
story. It's a
Yes.
good example. It's a good example of what we're talking about.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus
alright,
Christ.
So I'm gonna say it again. I am a Mexican American who grew up in Seattle.
Yeah.
I came across a person, a white boy,
Man, yeah.
a white boy who was in the Junior Polo Olympics.
Super privileged.
Super privileged white
horrible
boy.
person.
Was very confused as to why he was like genuinely talking to me and Maisie, and
Yeah.
like we ended up sharing like a friendship because we were in the same classes.
Well,
and,
we made fun of a lot of the people who were like.
oh, of course, yeah, we were bullies to white people.
We were bullies to white people and people who had more money than us because
Oh,
it was the way we got
absolutely.
back at. It was the way to level the playing
So it was
field.
confusing as to why this kid would like talk to us
Yeah.
and like give us snacks, share his food, give
Yeah.
us answers to
Yeah.
like help us. Like it was really weird. And I also had another class with this person named Jackson, and we were in a group together and we were like fucking around, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna take his phone while he's in the bathroom and he's gonna come back, he's gonna be so confused, yada yada yada. I was in Running Start at the time where you take college classes while you're still in high school, getting both credits at the same time. So I had only 5 periods out of the 6. I go home and I'm with a friend. I go home and I'm with a friend and I'm like, oh shit, Alejandro, I have Jackson's phone. Let me see if I can get this phone back to him before, 6th period ends. So we're like trying to get a hold of him without a phone, whatever. I'm getting these text messages on the phone like, whoever has this phone is gonna get prosecuted. This is not a joke. You are going to jail, yada yada yada. And there's a video of me laughing because I was trying in all my power to get his phone back, and I was like, this is crazy. Like there's literally a video of me trying to get his phone back before the school day has ended. I get a hold of him. He pulls up. We meet at a Starbucks. He pulls up in his brand new 2019 BMW as a fucking 17-year-old. And I'm like, oh, here's your phone, Jackson. And he like lashes out on me in front of everybody at the Starbucks, and is like yelling at me, and it's like, why the fuck would you take my phone? And I was like literally about to like start crying and just be like, I have your phone. It's right here.
I'm
Like,
sorry.
I'm so confused. It was just a joke. Like, I don't know what happened. And it just gets crazier and crazier after this. I go back to school the next day and they call me into the office and they're like, take all your stuff, come into the office. They were like, you stole his phone is what they were telling me. You stole his phone, which it was already back in his hands that same day, 2 hours later. They were telling me you stole his phone. His wallet is also missing. We're linking you to the wallet. We want you to go to jail.
There was an officer.
There were security guards in there.
Didn't you get handcuffed to a desk?
No, they were trying to put me in handcuffs, and like they were literally telling me like you're gonna get your scholarship taken away, which is completely illegal to say to a student.
How long were you there?
And I was there like for over a course of like 14 days.
So she couldn't go to classes.
I couldn't go to classes. It was insane.
Which would cause her to lose her scholarship.
Yeah, they were like doing all this and that. One of the days I finally said it, I was like, I think this is racist. I think he is racist. And they freaked out on me and they were like, don't you dare bring the race card into this. And I was like, well, what the fuck else is this? Like, I gave him the phone back. I started to tell my parents about the situation, and they were like, what the fuck is going on? So they were like, well, like, we hope you're chilling with that. Like, you'll figure it out. I go to school, like, the 6th day that this happened, and I, like, am crying. And I'm, like, trying to get anybody who was in that class that day to help me out. And they were, like, not letting anybody come in and, like, help me out. And it was just really bad. So eventually what ended up happening was that, like, a whole bunch of the staff members were getting involved. And it was ridiculous. And there was a Puerto Rican security guard at our school who is like a black Puerto Rican. And he came up to me one day speaking Spanish to me, which I was like so taken back by. And he was like, hey, this is like between just me and you. He was speaking in Spanish, and he was like, I need you to tell me if you like intentionally took the phone. Like I'm assuming you didn't, but like let me know, because what they are telling you is like absurd and super not okay, super inappropriate, super illegal. You need to go down to the courthouse tomorrow. Like, this literally happened. This is not a joke. Like, this is real life. He was like, you need to go to the courthouse tomorrow and start a case immediately and get all these people fired and
Wow.
get a whole bunch of money, because this is like out of line. And
Yeah.
I was like, I was starting to freak out.
You're
And
like,
like,
what,
You're like,
17,
what, 17,
18 years old?
18 years old?
yeah.
Like 16.
I was like, yeah, like barely 17. No, yeah, like 16. I was 16.
Yeah.
And they ended up linking me to a pencil that I stole from him, which I don't like. It was insane. Like, they really were sticking to that too. Like, you stole a pencil from him, you took his phone, and his wallet has gone missing, and it's really hard for us to believe that you didn't take it. And I was crying, like crying nonstop in this office, like day to day, and they just wouldn't let it go. So I finally brought in my case manager, and my case manager was defending me. And like this, like the 13th day, I had teachers coming up to me and saying that they were sorry and hugging me. And I had one teacher cry with me. And it was super overwhelming that the last day that it happened, my dad came in and he was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but my daughter has been crying every single day, so I'm going to take her out of this office. And there was like 9 people in this office. And he was like, we're going to go. And we left. I went home. I literally passed out for 8 hours, just like super overwhelmed. And then I went to the hospital and I had pneumonia and I was sick for multiple weeks after that.
Yeah.
And they were telling me, they were like, you are like stressed, like something is not okay with you. And I was like, yeah, like a whole bunch of shit's going on. And I was sick with pneumonia, came back to school, and like all his friends were like taunting me, and I was crying. Like, I couldn't even be in class. Like, it was just ridiculous.
School was fucking traumatic. I remember like holding you in my arms while you were crying and like coughing.
Yeah, it was insane. Like, I just, it was so weird to me to see him just laughing in class like nothing ever happened. Like, after all this had happened to me.
Yeah, for her to go through all that stress and him to just be like carefree.
Yeah.
And shit. Like, I remember he was like laughing in class and Jenny was like silently crying or something. And I was like, shut the fuck up in front of everyone.
Yeah. And Maisie was very mad too and told him to shut the fuck up in front of the class, and the teacher didn't even have anything to say.
The teacher had nothing to say because she knew what the fuck happened. And like, and this is in Seattle, supposedly this like utopia of like progressiveness, you know, and shit like this is happening. Like, Seattle public schools sucks balls.
Yeah.
And Jennifer almost fucking died. And this is like one of the multiple cases of like really fucked up shit happening. Like,
yeah.
So you can actually get fucking sick from the amount of stress, especially racially, dude. Like,
yeah, which was like it still awes me that happened, because just like my friend group, we had talked about cases like this. Like, we can't even believe that this happens, and then it happened to me, and it was just like so fucking ridiculous, and it was insane. But what ended up happening was they forced my dad to pay the money that was missing from the wallet, which I never took. And the thing is that I never said that I took the wallet, which is like the craziest part. I was in the hospital while my dad had gone to the school and gave the money. And then when I tried talking to the principal, he said, is 5 minutes good enough for you, because I have a meeting to go to? I told him what happened. He did not give one flying fuck and went to his meeting.
yeah.
Yeah, and that was that.
High five for getting through that, though. I'm proud of you. Yeah. Fuck Jackson. We're not gonna say his last name because he's a bitch.
Yeah.
We're not narcs.
Yeah, it's not even worth putting any more energy into that. There's this. I hear my voice. I think there's like a little bit of an echo or something.
You're all good. We can't hear you.
Okay. There's this movie I just watched called Promising Young Woman, which is nominated for an Oscar. And it gets at it gets at this like this. The story is that there's this woman whose like best friend actually was like raped by this this asshole. Sounds like kind of similar to a situation like that guy, and and partially, well, I don't know if it's probably a movie that both of you could watch and would really like. So, but so there's a section in it about where this girl confronts the dean of her med school or whatever. And whenever the girl was raped, she went to the dean and asked, to like help her, and the dean just kind of was like, "Oh, I'm gonna, worked within the system, right? Like you're saying, Maisie, right? Like she's just playing the game. Like she doesn't really want to help anyone. She just kind of wants to maintain her grip on power." And what the main character does is she connects it. She kind of does some crazy thing where she like gets the dean's daughter in a situation, or at least bluffs the dean that her daughter is in danger in a similar way to how her friend was raped and everything. And as soon as there is that familial or that visceral like person that you actually have stakes in being in trouble, that's when people give a fuck.
Yeah.
So like when your principal didn't do anything, like how would she was the principal a man or a woman? Like what would happen if what would happen if his daughter or his son were in that same situation? Like he would act very differently. And like I think this is getting at something that you were talking about, Maisie, with like the difference between like we were talking about care, right? Like there's a difference between sympathy and empathy.
Yeah.
And sympathy is dangerous, and empathy, like we need to be treating every single person not like they're a number or just like they're an object, right?
Yeah.
But like how can we continually treat others like they are our own daughters or sons or brothers or sisters?
In their shoes or something, or had similar experiences.
That's the only way that we'll be able to kind of like make hurdles, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do that. I don't know.
We go and shoot Jackson.
I was having a conversation with someone kind of about this yesterday. It was another example from the workplace. It was like, I can tell when, like, usually older Africans will get like tall drips like all the time. That's usually what they get, and like a hot water on the side, or they'll get an Earl Grey. Like that's usually what they get. And like a lot of Hispanics I noticed get like caramel frappuccinos. And I some of my coworkers will be like have a subtle tone when they see them through the camera, when they see them walking in, like they'll change their tone with these older, usually by POC. And they'll like make sure that they pay the full amount and like make sure that they're like getting everything in. And I honestly don't care. Like I'll give them their drinks for free.
Fuck it.
I'll like drip coffee. I'll give them that shit to them for free. Yeah. And they're like always so surprised that I have like friendships with these older bi POC. They're like, "Oh, you like that guy?" And I'm like, "Have you ever tried talking to him?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I notice a lot of that happening a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you guys are awesome. Thank God.
Hey.
Thank God you guys popped up on Omegle, because I couldn't handle another dick, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
I think so. We've been going for nearly, we're at like an hour 10 minutes already, which is nuts.
Damn.
But are there, before we get going, is there anything that you'd like to, like, final thoughts or final things you'd like to say to the people watching or anything like that?
Be a good person. Don't be racist. Yeah. Eat good food. Listen to people. Have empathy. Don't gentrify. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah, ditto, man.
Well, I'll do it right now. I looked at your account, but I will subscribe to you because I had a fun time talking to you. Thank you for the opportunity to just like talk our shit, you know?
Yeah, thanks for listening to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm subscribed.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
I'm gonna upload the video right now, actually. So it'll be up in probably an hour or so. If this is an hour-long video, it'll probably be up in an hour.
dope. Okay, what was your name?
That's right. I love this part. People are like, "What? Who are you?"
Yeah, what's your name?
Yeah, I'm Kenny. I'm an actor in Florida. That's
Nice,
Kenny.
nice. Fuck yeah, Kenny from Florida. You're the only man in Florida we like.
Yes.
Yeah, my dad lives there, so you really trumped all of
Oh,
that.
God.
So, anyways,
That's-
it was so great talking to you.
So nice meeting you,
Yeah,
Kenny.
it's so nice to meet you. And if you guys ever want to, Maisie, if you ever want to talk about some more stories that you have, you know, you guys can always email me. I have my email all over the channel, so you guys are always welcome to shoot me an email to come back on again and talk.
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
see you guys later.
Bye, Kenny.
Bye.